Okay, we are up and running for this episode. I mean, there's a slight chance that this doesn't get recorded and we have to re-record. We just spent probably 20 minutes going through a technical difficulty, and as my good friend Chris Marler says, Mercury is in Gatorade, so that seems to be affecting everyone. But here we are, episode 5 now of No Punts Allowed with Paige and Kramer. Let's get that beer crack.
I'm getting some good compliments on the quality of crack, so I want to give this one phrasing.
We'll give it a rating.
But you know, I want to make sure I get the right angle.
Ooh.
Had that fizz afterwards. This is, by the way, I've been coming at this with like beers that are not in my wheelhouse. Okay. This is a wheelhouse beer. We'll get to that with our picks and pints.
Yes.
Do we settle on picks and pints, or is it pints and picks? Picks and pints is way cooler, right?
I think
it just flows better. Okay, we will do it. By the way, this is an amazing week of football. I have been telling you all week that I live for this shit. This is the shit that I absolutely live for, all of it. And like the whole weekend, petrified of Friday night's Iowa game. We'll talk about that too. But I am so excited about this college football weekend, and like we are there almost. So I cannot wait for this thing to get going.
Yeah, no, it's pretty wild. And I just wanted to start this off with a public service announcement that I actually, in fact, have seen the walk-on tryout tweet from Arizona football. So if anyone is still wondering if I have seen it, please don't send it to me, because everyone did. So I have seen it, and I just wanted to get that out of the way early so anyone listening to this podcast knows, like, I need to send Paige that tweet. No, you don't.
Okay, I gotta admit, I'm very online. Not a compliment to myself, okay? I'm very online. And when you originally had pushed this in the doc, I had to actually seek it out.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I would like your thoughts. It seems like a sensitive issue already, based off it seems like
reaction?
People are making sure, that like you are absorbing this. So now that I know it, what were your thoughts on Arizona looking for, like, you know, whomever to
literally
help them
anyone
win football games, like stray dog? Come on, buddy.
This is like being in a relationship and then getting on a dating app and being like, oh, just see what's out there, like in the middle of the season. Like, what is happening? No, I think more so this is like, it was relevant because I think people only responded to that tweet because obviously they know I'm an Arizona football fan, and they're like normally a football fan of like Alabama or Iowa or whoever else. And those are just ones that are coming to my head that sent it to me. It's basically just those people knowing that this would sort of trigger me. But a lot of SEC people that I know sent it to me, and I was like, why? Just stay in your own little bubble.
To be clear, for anyone that doesn't know what's going on, that isn't online.
That's a good point.
Arizona is looking for walk-ons. They're tweeted out that basically,
October
if you want to play for the Arizona football team, because we suck, no offense, Paige, you can. Now, all football teams have walk-on tryouts. That's a thing that happens. The timing, the viral nature-ish of this, like all of it is kind of hilarious because they're just not that good. So it does feel like they're looking for like just anything and anyone that can run a sub 4.55 40 to help out the cause.
I just it was pretty painful, but I just wanted everyone to know that I did in fact see it. I mean, I even was on I was literally on TikTok, and there was a very well known sub brand of a college sports thing, and they were like, "Look at Arizona putting this out." I'm like, even they have seen it, and they're like,
so you can't help yourself though. Like, you know, you're going to get mad. You've identified that, like, hey, I'm going to get mad, but then you still, like, lo and behold, get mad.
Yeah.
You are literally mad online.
When it comes to Arizona sports, like, I'm like, oh, it doesn't bother me. Arizona stinks, blah, blah, blah. That tweet bothered me. Like, I was so upset. And everyone who sent it to me, I don't know if they forgot, like, what my personality traits were. That Arizona is my personality. Exactly. They know my personality. Being an Arizona Wildcat is a personality trait to me. But anyway, I digress. We should definitely move on to much bigger fish to fry.
Well, no. This is actually perfect because I also was mad online. And before we get into kind of week 5 stuff, well, some week 4 stuff, but also week 5, let's talk Lane Kiffin and Mike Wilbon.
Yes.
Right? So you admitted where you were mad online. Mike Wilbon goes on PTI. It's all over the internet. basically air quoting him, like calling Lane Kiffin an embarrassment. It was weird. It was a really weird PTI clip. I know they don't do a lot of college football, and Wilbon doesn't do a lot of college football. It felt like if I was going to record a Lane Kiffin video like 9 years ago, this is probably the video I would record.
Yeah.
I found it really unusual. I was mad that I had seen it. I don't know if you had that same response. Like we've done stories on Lane. We've talked to Lane. I have found him like super changed, different guy from what he was in terms of how he got here. When you look at what he's had to do, he's had very public firings. He's had very public fallouts. Even the whole Alabama thing didn't go great. And yet now, like, he's not an embarrassment. If you asked most football programs, like how many if you polled every football program in America right now,
yeah,
what percentage of them do you think would rather have Lane Kiffin as their coach than their current coach? 80%? Maybe higher?
Maybe higher. Outside of Alabama, Clemson fans are a little delusional, so they'd probably keep
They'll fire Dabo, and you wait. They lose another one, and they'll be calling for him. That's how they roll.
Could happen. And Lincoln maybe, but other than that, I would even take Lane over Lincoln at this point. So
right now in this moment in time, like everyone's like, so I found it odd, and I couldn't help myself, and I feel like most other people were kind of like, what the shit? Like Lane has sort of done the impossible, which is reinvent himself, and he responded to the video in a very Lane way, like, you know, kind of removing himself from it. And then he kind of picked it back up this morning, and you could tell it was bothering him. Like it bothered a lot of people. So shout out to Lane. Like, I get it. That would bother me too. I did not like that though. Cause I don't, if you're thinking like going into this game, Ole Miss, Alabama, and you're thinking it's like, well, Lane's an embarrassment. They can't win. Look, I think Alabama's going to win.
Yeah.
But that narrative has been dead for quite a while.
So I have to say there were a few things that bothered me about this. One, like you said, they don't really cover a ton of college football on that front. And to pick Alabama Ole Miss week to decide all of a sudden to come for Lane Kiffin just seemed like, oh, it's a relevant week. This is going to be a popular topic. Let me throw this out there. That's sort of what it felt like. So it didn't feel like it was meant to be like actually smart and thoughtful in the way that it was presented. The other part of this too is Lane has been so incredibly open with, hey, yeah, I was immature. Hey, I was not ready for that. I got a job that I wasn't prepared for. Over and over again has he been open with that. And I have to say, especially in the sport of college football, there are people in charge of programs that mess up majorly, and never take responsibility for it. Never. Now, is Lane perfect now? No, no one is. But again, I think also in sports too, like thinking of Michael Wilbon and like things that he's a fan of, like, are you really going to say that about every person and every athlete or someone you're affiliated with was a perfect person and has had the perfect path? Like, no, but this guy's owned up to it. So I think that was the part that irritated probably Lane, is that he's owned up to this. He's been open about it. He's been vulnerable about it. He has definitely been like, he handled this the best way he possibly could have in terms of the last like couple of years and being an Ole Miss. Even when he was at FAU, he was pretty open about the fact that he had not been perfect. So I don't know. I think the whole thing is just kind of like a sad take on that, and like it went viral. Take. So I mean, it definitely worked. And like I said, Lane is not perfect. That's not the point we're trying to make here. It's more just like, this is a weird take to have now. Like you said, a couple years ago, maybe, all right? 9 years ago, we would have had this take, but now when someone's publicly changed, I don't know. And also, like, to go to like even further lengths, like we could look at the greatest football coach the sport has, okay? And he basically takes guys that have made mistakes or had issues in their careers, brings them there, rehabilitates them, and sends them off. Like, if he believes in second chances and puts these guys in place and wins football games with them, I don't think we can really sit there and point fingers about this moral compass here.
Lane. He did it with this guy, right? And so, like, now look, we've done multiple stories on Lane, like you and I working together, where we've gone down there and we're embedded with him for a couple days prior to the Ohio State game when he was at FAU, which was awesome, right? And I remember sitting in his office and, like, you know, you got like game tape of like Chase Young, who's about to destroy his like backup offensive lineman, and But all he wanted to talk about was like kind of the self-help, self-care books, like on his desk. And so instead, he's giving me suggestions for books and talking about being a father and like getting advice on Family Man and managing life. And like I've always taken that conversation like, and it's stuck with me a lot. Like I know he's at a different place, and it was funny at the time because he was like, "I'm here to stay." And okay, Ole Miss opens up, he's got to leave, but I thought the person I was talking to was really authentic, and I like that. And you're right. The tarmac firing, the bullshit, like this dude has seen some shit, and he's in his 40s, and it's just, I think for a guy that's kind of lived these things out in the open, it's weird to kind of drag him back in. And say Alabama beats the hell out of Ole Miss, which is possible, very possible. This is Alabama. The take won't be, Lane Kiffin's an embarrassment. Like, they're going to be a force. Like, the take's going to be Alabama's really good, and Ole Miss isn't there.
Yeah.
But Ole Miss is going to be a problem for a lot of teams. So I'm excited. Again, it's an odd thing to drop. I think you bring up a good point. The timing of this thing to drop is odd, and just the delivery. It's like if somebody asked me about, like, tennis, and I'd say, that guy sucks. That guy sucks over there, because I don't know. I'm just saying that guy sucks because I thought, like, you know what? I remember hearing that guy wasn't as good.
Yeah, that he wasn't good, and that he threw a temper tantrum on the court. So now he can say he stinks. Yeah. That to me, of all people to come out and say that, I don't know. It just was a weird deal altogether. Another thing that's a little weird is rooting against your own quarterback publicly during a game. And Oklahoma fans have decided that they no longer want Spencer to start games for them. They were cheering for the backup quarterback. This also makes me really mad. I think we were mad online a lot
we're
this
just
week.
Mad
right?
online.
Mad online. No puns allowed. Mad online. That's going to be the title of our episode. Mad online.
I like it.
So with Spencer, okay, I've mentioned this before. I said I would really, really appreciate if people would stop bringing up the QB1 thing and being like, oh, well, of course this kid isn't doing well because, he was kind of a jerk on QB1. That was so many years ago, and I would just like to remind people that he was still in high school and a kid. Now he just turned 21 this week, all right? It's been a minute since he was on that show. Not saying he's a perfect human being. I also will just, full disclosure, I do know his family. And they're the nicest people, and I couldn't imagine sitting in that stadium and hearing people cheer against your kid, who, by the way, hasn't lost a game for you this year. What are you doing? Like, we as college football fans, this is not just an Oklahoma specific thing. Wow, we're going on a rant here. This is not a rant. Yeah, oh yeah. This is not an Oklahoma specific thing, but we as college football fans have been so spoiled the last couple of years with massive blowouts and the same 4 people being good and seeing them win by 1,000 that we forget that winning is still winning. Like, even in the sense of like, with Florida and Alabama, people were like, oh, that was a moral victory for Florida. They don't give it about a moral victory. And Alabama's still good. They still won that game. There's no chance that Alabama is going to lose to Florida. Like, I'm sorry. Like, yes, it looked like it, but like, Nick Saban is a better coach. That's just how it's going to go. I'm sorry. It's just irritating to me that also, like, the standard is just set to, like, blow teams out by 1,000. And I think we need to get back to, like, okay, wins are wins. And that's all you have to do to build your resume at this point. Like, you can't be blowing people out by 100 because, like, it's just not how this season's going to go for us. So I will say,
shout out to you for holstering that expletive. Like, that was a pretty good holster. It sounded like a technical glitch. Like, if you're listening to this on audio, it's like we bleeped it out. No, you bleeped it out. So good for you.
I bleeped it out. I held it in because I'm just kind of sick of it. That was a whole rant on one. Let's start with your opinion on the Spencer Rattler chant, and then we'll sort of get into the college football landscape in general.
Totally. So I'm a Jets fan, right? And I'm a fan of New York sports teams that are shitty. Did not holster the expletive. So the fans boo in New York more actively than other fans. Zach Wilson got booed like before he could like do anything. He's already been booed. Okay. So that's part of it. This is odd. This is an odd dynamic at the college level to boo a kid who was good for you last year. Like you said, who hasn't lost. And I don't know if it's a product of expectations. I don't know if it's a product of like conference domination and boredom. I don't know what it is to call for a backup, but I can't remember anything quite like it. And I'm kind of with you. Just when we get to college kids, there's something about this kind of public disappointment that always feels weird to me. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, he's sort of a professional now because he's getting paid.
Good for him. A lot of money, yeah.
But there's a line that feels odd to cross, even though this is not necessarily vindictive. Like, what they're saying is not weird. We've seen people say some god-awful shit at college games, even this year, right? But there's something about it that just feels peculiar, right? And here's the other point. I forget who made this point. I was listening this week. You don't think Lincoln Riley would put in somebody else if he thought that was a better... Like, I trust Lincoln Riley's opinion
on quarterbacks.
That position in particular.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
So you don't think he's like, you know... They got a point. Like, maybe I should play this dude. Like, so that's the other part that's just strange to me.
It also blows my mind that people forget that Baker Mayfield was a quarterback there. Somebody who runs his mouth more than probably any other quarterback now professionally even. And when he was in school, he did too. But that was never an issue. It was never a knock on him. And he won games, yeah, but he did struggle. He lost games too. Like, that's the part that's just so wild to me is that, like, why is it different for Spencer? Because he was said it on a high school documentary and now you're going to keep that? Like, I don't, that part, it just seems odd and they're still winning games. And like I said, I do think college football fans have been spoiled by the Oklahomas, the Alabamas, the Clemsons, who have, and even Ohio States that have like blown people out the last couple of years, and it hasn't really been any competition besides 1 or 2 games a year in their conference. So
Oklahoma fans in particular, by the way, like the regular season has been kind of boring.
Exactly.
With the exception of Kansas State, who's got their number. We'll see if they have their number again. And then they get the shit kicked out of them in the playoff. It's like a yearly tradition. It's like everything comes together. I find it strange. And that puts a college kid in a really tough spot. I can't imagine if I was him. I think I'm still immature. I would have a hard time reacting to that in the appropriate manner.
I mean, I would not. We know that now from our Matt Online takes here. But I think, too, when Holly Rowe interviewed him after the game, she brought it up to him. I mean, she flat out brought it up to him, and he said, and I thought she did it in a great way, too, because at the end of it, she did tell him, you won that game. You know what? Good for you for saying that, because you won that game, and you went out there and did it. And to me, that was like... something I also just want to give her props for that, because when I saw it, I was like, she doesn't have to do that and put him in a position where she asked him a difficult question, but she also reminded him that he did do a good job. And you have to remember that, like, that's part of it. There's a ton of pressure on these kids. They are making money, but still, I just thought it was a very nice gesture on her part to, like, sort of break down that, like, professionalism thing of, like, you know how reporters are just supposed to be there and ask the simple questions. She very much made it real and, like, heartfelt, because she asked him that question. And we know as human beings, like, people chanting for somebody else is going to hurt your feelings regardless if you're going to own it up or not.
Suck.
So I'm interested to see what he does this next week, because if I were him, this is in knowing
this is
Spencer,
danger zone, by the way. Kansas State, like
it is super danger zone. But this is the week that you come out there and you just shut everybody up. And with Spencer, he is someone who thrives on, like, chip on his shoulder, let me do this. And this is sort of like the first. I mean, I guess last year being benched, there's been adversity for him at Oklahoma, but I feel like this is the first time he'll really get to, like, prove himself in that sort of, like, reaction to them actually booing him. And not, I guess.
By the way, can I talk about how bad my bet was for this game? Oh my God.
Put?
One of the worst bets I made. I had the over. Was it 51.5? There was 29 points. It was terrible. This over was dead halfway through the first quarter. Like, I was like, yeah, this is not happening. Like, it was bad. Really bad bet. Speaking of bad, let's talk Clemson.
Yep.
That's a very difficult transition. I am still kind of baffled by this whole thing. This is not, now I want to be clear, since we're just going to be pissed off, this is not the death of a dynasty, right? Clemson can still be good. We did this in Alabama 6 years ago. That was really stupid.
Yeah,
but this team is fundamentally, like, broken. I am pretty in awe about what we're seeing. And then last week, you've got a team playing poorly. You lose your best defensive player. You lose your star running back. Like, injuries were brutal. So not only do you have a team that's down and now out, I mean, DJ's Heisman odds right now are 75-1. Last time I checked, 75-1. Like, this was a kid that we thought would step in and be amazing. Mm-hmm. What is your take on the state of Clemson?
So I actually didn't think about this until the death of the Alabama dynasty thing came up this week, because it was like 6 years ago today or something. I saw that tweet from our friends at AL.com.
Oh, yeah.
But I thought it was interesting that Clemson's coaching staff, here's something that, like, forget, like, players on the field. Clemson's coaching staff doesn't particularly have a ton of, like, changes being made. There's a lot of people at the top of that making decisions that have been there and been together for a very, very long time. And sometimes,
exception of Jeff Scott going to USF.
Yes,
and
but that took forever. That took forever for that to happen.
Tony Ellitt's still there, so totally agree.
Yeah, and Venables is still there. Like, you have tons of people that are still there making decisions. And sometimes I think you get, like, and this is with anything, you get super comfortable with the people you work with, and sometimes you don't think outside the box and you start doing the same repetitive stuff over and over again. And I think something when it comes to Alabama, like, that is their reality every year. Like, they have got to figure it out and change things up and implement new things. And I think as much as that is difficult to do, and people always praise Nick Saban for that, I think it also helps them in a way, because it brings fresh minds and it brings fresh people in and different takes. Yeah, there's a core group there as well, but I do think that partially helps them, and that's what's made them successful. I mean, even we can go back to Lane Kiffin and bringing him in and changing things and that offense. Like, there's a reason why, like, having new and fresh people come in helps. And I think that might be sort of what's keeping Clemson, because I feel like they just think it's going to work itself out. And when you have a guy like Trevor Lawrence, and like you said, all of the pieces that they lost before, like, those things were sort of making up for them having to change things up. Like, they were just figuring it out. It eventually was just working itself out. Now you sort of need to adjust with the players you do have and go, okay, these are the things that aren't working. How do we fix it? And I feel like Dabo and co have been sort of just like, oh, it'll work itself out. It'll work itself out. It'll work itself out, because they were so used to doing that with the guys that were there for what, 2-3 years. So, like,
yes. Also think about the quarterback, the Deshaun to Trevor, like, it has been surreal. I think a couple of things. You're spot on. I think it's a really good point about the continuity. Continuity is great. Complacency is the danger of continuity. And I'm not saying that. I think those guys are great coaches. Mm-hmm. I think the loss of Scott is a big deal.
Absolutely.
And I think, but I think we skipped, like, they lost Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne, who's one of the greatest collegiate backs to ever play, and had such an impact on games. Not as great as Trevor, but huge. Look at the receivers that they've lost over the last 5 to 8 years. You get back Justin Ross,
but he doesn't look.
No, he doesn't look like the same guy yet, but it's hard to know.
Well, and that's
Their
also
offensive
fair.
line is a mess. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, totally fair. So they've got so many of these things, but we got this glimpse of DJ last year against Notre Dame, and it was like, oh my God, this is it. This guy has a stronger arm than Trevor Lawrence, which he has, and he's composed, and imagine what he'll be in 3 years. And I think my main takeaway for this, because there was like I don't know the exact record, but over like a 4-ish year span, they were like 64-4, 63-4, like the same record as Alabama, right? They went punch for punch with Alabama, and it was amazing. This actually makes me appreciate Alabama in a weird way. Yep. My first thought isn't necessarily what's wrong with Clemson. It's, holy shit, how does Nick Saban do this? Because this is like Nick Saban's reality all the time. And they haven't, for the most part, had a year like this. And I think Clemson long-term will be fine. But I do think this is... I'm really curious to see how they respond. I think this week's game against Boston College, they're a 16-point favorite. I'm super intrigued by that. That seems like a lot of points, by the way. I'm just saying. That seems... I don't want anything to do with it. Yeah. But I am super intrigued to see how this team responds, because they've not faced like this kind of adversity. And when they lost the Georgia game, we were like, all right, well, you got this cupcake schedule. You better not lose again. Well, like, shit. Like, it's week 5. Yeah. And they have 2 losses. That is astonishing to me still. It's hard to believe.
Looking at the rest of their conference, I wouldn't put it past them to lose again. And, like, that is a weird thing to think about. And here's the thing. So we'll obviously get into some games that we find interesting this week that aren't necessarily your like biggest of matchups or ranked against ranked. And I put Clemson and Boston College as mine because, I mean, you're looking at a Boston College team that's undefeated. I understand they haven't played a conference game yet. This is their first conference game. It's still something to prove. And also, like, when you see another team beat Clemson, you're like, oh, it's possible. You know what I mean? Like, not just like before it was like, oh, Georgia beat them, so, you know, it's going to be difficult still to beat them. No, like you see somebody else in your conference that wasn't expected necessarily to win that game or even to have it be close, and you're like, maybe we can do it. It's sort of a mental game, and I think for Clemson, they have to be able to pull themselves out of it, and I'm not quite sure they can.
You lose the aura around you, and I think we saw that with Georgia Tech. And we saw it with NC State. I really think, and I'll bring up another one because we talked about it too. Kansas State, Oklahoma. The aura is dead right now around Oklahoma. Yes. And Kansas State doesn't fear anything, clearly, because they've won 2 high-scoring close games in the last 2 years. You remember last year's game? That was Spencer Rattler did not play well at all. And this is on the road, and this is a double-digit spread. To me, that's definitely
what's the spread?
The spread. I will get you your updated spread right now. I believe.
What's the over on that game too?
10.5 is what I have. There's some 11s out there, and it's 52.5. But I'm still really pissed off that I bet the over in last week's game, so I'm going to stay away from it.
The Oklahoma over, like we mentioned this before, like we were so used to like seeing blowouts from Oklahoma. The Oklahoma over used to just be like, hey, do it. Like that, it was like a lock of the week every week the last couple of years.
I thought we would have that, and we just haven't. On the topic of really interesting games, outside of the obvious ones, I think we're kind of sleeping on Arizona State, UCLA with everything going on.
Okay.
Like I would deem that to be super interesting. Really like both of these quarterbacks. You've got 2 coaches that are kind of vying for this. I have 2 Pac-12 games, by the way, I'm going to run by you because you're our resident Pac-12 expert.
Yes.
I'm really excited. I think this is going to be a Jaden Daniels like show.
Coming out.
We're not talking about him enough.
No.
And when we're talking about quarterbacks, Matt Corral taking over, I get it. I'm really excited about that. I'm telling you this, too. I think Stanford's going to put a scare into Oregon. I really think that Tanner McKee, who we also did a story on, is playing extremely well. That game, spread's only 8 points. There's something about that game that feels weird to me. And it would not surprise me if that game is close.
We should mention that the Oregon Arizona game was much closer than expected.
Yes.
Here's the thing about the Pac-12. On that broadcast, they mentioned there has not been an undefeated Pac-12 champion since 2010. I wasn't even in college yet. I wasn't even there. I was graduating high school. But it's wild to me that, like, I mean, this could be the game, but, like, I every year I expect a team like Oregon and Washington in years past and UCLA, I mean, they already lost, but they lose game. We eventually lose a game. I say we. We as the Pac-12 eventually lose a game, and it ruins our chances of being in the playoff. And I feel like Oregon obviously has a huge win over Ohio State, but like after that, I was like, oh, we need to pump the brakes because they still have to make it through the Pac-12. So I don't think that Stanford is good enough to sort of if Oregon plays the way they played against Arizona, they'll probably get rocked. But the other part of that is they were playing Arizona, and they probably were like, these guys aren't that great. We'll just do whatever. Yeah, I don't see that one being a super scare, but I'm probably going to regret that in this because I do believe that they'll lose eventually, but I don't know. I don't know that Stanford's the team to do it.
I can't wait. All right, we got to get into the big games. Wait, normally we've got like a unique flow. Well, I don't know. We're still figuring out what the hell the flow of this podcast is going to be. But we were talking beforehand of what we do, and we both love the games themselves. And with weeks like this, we don't have to overthink it. We just want to rattle through some games. And then we'll get our picks. What are you drinking, by the way, there?
It says Topo Chico.
So you are...
It's mineral water.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
so at some point, are you going to drink alcohol on this thing?
Yes. The tough part is that I'm in the Pacific time zone, so I have to still do work and work out after this.
It's still late afternoon.
I know. But here's the thing. I did discover... this with people are going to be so mad that it took me this long to figure out. But so have you heard of ranch water?
Yes.
Okay, so it's basically this, lime, and tequila, and then you can put like tahini on the rim. I legitimately, this is like my new go-to because I can't drink a ton of like seltzer or like bubbles, but for some reason this specific mineral water, Topo Chico, works for me.
Yes.
And I love tequila, and that's literally, I've had a ranch water. I'm not even gonna, it's like when you go to the doctor and you lie and you're like, oh, I only had 2 drinks a week.
Yeah, like the question.
Yeah, the question. So I'm not gonna actually
Wink,
get
wink.
into them, but I've had a couple this week and past weekend. But yeah, Topo Chico. So send me you making ranch water because it's delicious.
So I did get asked by somebody listening to the pod. They're like, hey man, like what time are you filming that at? Like I think they wanted me to say like
10 in the morning,
7:30 a.m. on a Tuesday. Like what of it? No. This is being recorded. This is my happy hour, more or less. And it is. So I'm, to be clear, not that I'm above it. Look, this is kegs and eggs. Is my
to be
Twitter
honest,
handle.
yeah, exactly. You
know
can
where
drink
I
it
get
every
down.
time of day.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay.
He's being
but
responsible. It's all that matters.
I am being responsible, sort of. Okay, into the games. Let's start Ole Miss, Alabama. So I have this thing with big games. I like to handicap. I struggle to handicap. Like I'm a situational bettor. So if it works out, like it's great. I really struggle with this game because, and here's why. I don't know if Ole Miss has played anybody any good.
Yeah.
They could have dropped 100 on Tulane. I still don't think Louisville is all that good. I think crowd looks amazing. The defense looks much better. But I'm struggling with competition. We struggle with competition this time of year anyway. And the total in this game, by the way, I mean, it's been hitting 80 throughout the day. At the time we record is 80 points.
I saw that.
Which is amazing.
That's
but when
absurd.
you think about it, 79.5, there's an 80 out there. Spread still 14.5. They had 111 points in this game last year? 111. 63-48. I don't think it's that kind of game. I don't
either.
I think it'll be a lot of points, but I don't think it's going to be like last year's version of this was like a cartoon. Like it didn't feel real at times.
Yeah.
There'll be points. There's too many good offensive players. I don't think it'll be that.
I don't either. I think Alabama wins by a decent margin. And what's the spread again?
I like Alabama too. 14.5. I don't know what the hell to do with that. I don't really.
I think they win by 10.
I think so too. I think the Florida game is probably and Matt Corral could get his Johnny Manziel on here. And if he does, he's probably going to be, the Heisman is already a mess to bet, by the way. There's 2 guys under 2-1 and they're playing in this game. Like if you're not excited about this game, then I don't know what to tell you. This is amazing, even with a double-digit spread. So I struggle with it, but I do like Alabama. I think their defense is better.
Yeah.
I think Young is tuned in. Also the environment, right? That's a big part of this too. Last year's game on the road, this is in Tuscaloosa. The place is going to be going nuts. So that's going to be a huge role. I'm
going to say that Alabama will score on their first drive. If you're into that kind of betting, I will say that they will score on their first drive. And then after that, I think Ole Miss rolls a little bit. And then we get some ass chewings and then it snaps into Alabama mode and we get the sort of, not blowout we expect, but like a decent margin where it's not coming down to the last play. And watch, it's going to come down to a field goal. I just can't. I don't want that.
I tend to agree. No, I think there'll be points. We both like Alabama.
Yes.
And I struggle with the spread. Let's go to Arkansas, Georgia.
Ooh.
I have a stronger take on this one. I think Georgia, I want to be polite. I really like Arkansas. I like Sam Pittman. I think Georgia's going to just beat that ass. That's probably not polite. I just said I wanted to be polite. That's like the opposite of being polite.
Producer Matt texted me last episode and asked if it was explicit or not. And I said, when we swear it's explicit, well, this is certainly an explicit episode. So as he's watching this, I'll just tell him that. Do
I need to dial those back?
No. It's just
trust
good to
tree,
know.
circle of trust.
Yeah.
No, I could speak. This is like the only place I'm writing so many words throughout the week where I can't truly say how I feel. Like to that depth. I don't think Arkansas has a positional advantage on the field in this game. And I think that's a problem. Now, this team has got some heart. They've got the juju. They've got some really good players. And they got a coach that's awesome. Like, so it pains me to say this. Pittman in that, remember how that hire was received? It was like, this is what because he was not the first choice.
Yeah.
So it was like, wow, you are really settling. and he's been spectacular. So it pains me to say it, but I have Georgia by more than 18.5, which is a huge spread. That is a big, big spread for this game.
Yeah, I disagree. I do think Georgia wins.
Oh, boy.
But I think Arkansas is a great team, and great teams cover. So I know we are not getting to our picks yet, but that is definitely going to be the first one we discuss when we do get there. But I think, I don't know. I don't think that Georgia's offense, although they scored 1,000 points, I think people are also forgetting they played like Vanderbilt. So like,
I agree. I think
let's
that's fair
not
criticism.
get too excited about this offense flowing.
They could have beat Vanderbilt by 150 points last week. Like, I was at soccer practice checking my phone, and I thought it was an error. I thought there was a glitch. It's like 35-0 with 4 minutes left in the first, or whatever it is. It's like, that can't be right. It's like,
I think it was like Vanderbilt was like on pace to have like as many yards as Georgia did points. Like, it was that bad. Like, it was
close, like deep into the game. I don't know where it ended. It was close.
It didn't end up happening, but I remember it being super close because I was discussing with one of our other writers about it, and I was like, oh no, this is
Vandy is a 2-touchdown favorite this week against UConn. If we're talking about great football games, that is the saddest football game of the year. I've wanted to make a pick in that game. I actually kind of want to take UConn in the points. I think I'm a little scared too, though. It's a really pathetic game.
That is interesting. I feel like I'm just gonna watch that just for like the pain of it, like the tweet.
Oh, it's like a car crash. Like you're watching. I'm gonna watch it through my hands. Like, oh, this is so bad.
Yeah.
All right, Cincy Notre Dame. Well, who is Notre Dame? What are what do we do with the team? I don't know, frankly. I know that they scored 3 non-offensive touchdowns. The old Knots, getting back to the Nick Saban, harkening back to that Alabama team that scored one of those like every week. It feels like a few seasons ago. This is like the zombie team of college football that just feels like it's gonna be dead, and it just keeps not. It stays alive. And then Cincinnati, last time we saw them against Indiana, a game I'm still on tilt by. Indiana shot itself in the foot every which way. 4 turnovers, a lot of kickoff return. I know I had Indiana bet here. What are your thoughts? Because I'm struggling with this game a bit.
So I think Notre Dame actually wins this game. I
kind of agree.
I did this to myself last year too, where I was like, you know what? This might be the year where we were waiting for the year for Notre Dame to win important games. And I just think, having seen, like you said, that Cincinnati team against Indiana, and I mean, they didn't have an excellent first half. And I think in this situation with Notre Dame, especially because it's at Notre Dame, right? I'm pretty sure. I think that I just don't know that environment and being able to go and win on the road is going to happen for Cincinnati. And I hate saying that because I do really, really like this team. And obviously it will crush their playoff chances. But I just feel like having seen this Notre Dame team win in hostile environments and make it happen, I don't know. I sort of think
I think that's my exact opinion.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to see Cincinnati win for chaos purposes. Yeah. If a group of 5 team is going to make the playoff, this feels like a pretty good year. Like you're off to the right start. There's a lot of teams that have to lose that are losing. You know, if it comes down to Wake Forest versus Cincinnati, which by the way would be amazing because I am Team Wake. That is my new adopt a team for this week. I've got to add to my stables of adopt a teams. Yeah. Wake Forest. Oh my God.
We should make a flowchart of adopted teams.
Who's my week to week adopt a team? BYU was early. I think I'm
we just
disowning
put together
BYU.
A flowchart for each of us at the top, and then we'll have the ones in the middle that we mutually agree on, and then our ones to the side.
Well, Wake is that team, and Cincinnati. This is a really great game, but I'm kind of with you on Notre Dame. And I don't necessarily have a good sense other than I think, again, the roster is compiled of better players and better athletes. Cincinnati's got a really good quarterback running back combination that's going to be tough. But Notre Dame kind of has that mojo. Mm-hmm. Can we talk about Iowa? You want to talk about Iowa?
I do. I was literally just going to bring it up.
I'm scared shitless of this game. I do not know what to do.
Isn't the spread only 2?
It's 3.5. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's not a lot. For the number 5 team in the AP poll versus an unranked, Maryland's been pretty good. Look, Tua's younger brother, the younger, Tagovailoa has been awesome. How are we not talking about him, by the way? Like,
he plays for Maryland.
Shouldn't that be a big deal because he's at Maryland? Yeah. So I think for Iowa, they have the number 113 passing offense in the country, right? And that ain't going to fly. Friday night, weird game,
it's
weird
witching
timing,
hour.
weird
It's
opponent.
not a good one. That's like when Ohio State usually loses on like a Friday night game. So Friday night games in the Big Ten are never a good sign.
It's bad. It's not good. I do not feel good. I'm not going to wager this game. If I was, I would wager Maryland. To me, it's a pretty ripe spot for Maryland.
So I actually had that game on my picks, which we should move into picks and pints now.
Yes.
But I took it off just out of respect for you, just so you know. So
I really appreciate that.
Yes.
That is very nice of you.
All right,
but I will be watching. All right, let's do it. You want
beer reveal? I need beer reveal.
Oh, that's
first.
right. Oh, speaking of Iowa,
picks and pints.
This is timely. Okay, this is it. Pseudo Sue. This is the double dry hop pale ale. This is made in Iowa, so go Hawks. First off, can work is superb, right? Superb. They make a double IPA King Sue, which I almost used. That'll be next week's beer, I think. This is a top 10 beer. This is a genre. Any Sue beer, I can't do that next week. That's too close. But any Kingish Sue, Pseudo Sue beer is super, super good. So with Iowa needing my support, my emotional and alcoholic support, there it is. Look at that can. It is delightful. And again, back to the 16 ounces because I had that one. I think I did like a Modelo, and it was only the 12, and like that thing was gone like halfway through the pot. So this is a little bit better. So
I'm glad you still have some left.
But most importantly, you are picking. Like you are part of the joys of this podcast was trying to turn you into a degenerate gambler.
I have,
and I'm not pressuring you, but I feel like it's.
I've gone full degenerate, you guys. It has turned into. I had one good week. And it was 2 weeks ago, and I was like, I can do this. I got this. So
lead us off. Take us out to sea then. I like this.
Well, I'm betting against you, which I has against my better judgment, and I'm taking Arkansas to cover. We've talked about this. I honestly think 18.5 is a lot, especially for a Georgia team, again, outside of Vanderbilt, that isn't scoring like 1,000 points a game. So I don't know. I think Arkansas can keep it within reach.
I'm going the other way on this, but this is one of those lines that I feel like is just so enticing. Take the points. Arkansas is good. And I'll say this. I go into this game laying 18.5 against a good team, and it's a bit of a gut check. Like, that's a lot. Like, it's a lot. And if Arkansas scores early, I'm not going to feel very good about this thing. So, and also, I'll play my own devil's advocate. Like, Georgia's a team I invested in my future betting. It's my national champion. It's a team I bet every which way. Georgia. And also Darnell Washington is back. Remember him?
Yes.
Oh my God. If people have not seen a 6'7", 265-pound tight end play, you are in for a treat because he is like a football unicorn, and I am so excited to see him back on the field. I think he's going to be a star.
Before we transition into the next game, I do want to say I want to give a shout out to KJ Jefferson because I do think he's another player that we are not talking about enough. I think people are talking about Arkansas as a whole, but also just that whole situation in terms of him being there and staying there and playing there. Like, there's just so much, especially in the college football landscape these days, that I want to give him a shout out for sticking with it.
He's good too. Like he is. I hope healthy. Hopefully, that's a big part of this game too, right?
Yeah. Somebody said so. Out. I saw that someone tweeted that he's totally fine. So.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. Truthfully, even if I'm going the other side, because he's played great. I thought against Texas he was nails. The guy's been wonderful. So it's a great story, like you said. And look, I'm in the business of winning money, but I want to see kids succeed.
Yeah, the heart. That's why I was like, I've been betting against teams that I really love, and I do love Arkansas, so I'm not going to bet against them. That was really what I was going with this time around.
It's a good strategy.
Your next pick, I stayed away from completely. Go ahead and explain yourself here. I don't know why.
So I am a contrarian bettor. Okay, there's no other way to explain this pick other than I see value in spreads, and I trust the odds makers, and I react. Florida State This line is crazy to me. -4.5 against Syracuse. Syracuse just beat Liberty in a game that I had in locks and said actually they'd win outright, which worked out well. Florida State is a favorite in this game. Now, for justification of this, other than just look at the point spread, the whole world's going to be betting Syracuse in this game. I get it. Florida State in the second half against Louisville actually played a good half. Their best half, I think, of the football season, where they looked like they were going to get blown out and actually had a chance to cover in that game. Second week in a row, I'm betting Florida State. I'm not proud of this. I'm picking this, but I don't necessarily endorse this.
Okay.
I think it's a really good spot. I am baffled by this point spread, and this is where I'm trying to be a wise guy, and we'll see what happens.
All right. I looked at it and went, no, I'm going to go a different direction with this. So
the comments on locks of the week are going to be terrible for that game. I'm just warning you right now.
Yeah, that one's going to be tough. So for my second pick, I picked Notre Dame +2 versus Cincinnati. Because I just think, I think they're going to win. So obviously I'm going to take that. And 2 points, normally I
don't disagree.
I don't go away from that. I don't disagree. Do you watch Billions?
Yes.
Okay, yes. I am not, what do they say? Oh, I'm butchering this now. It's like, I am not uncertain.
Yes. No, I like this pick.
It's going to be our code for things.
For real, I turned in my locks of the week before this pod to be edited. And as I sent it off, I don't believe I had Notre Dame on there. I think they're going to be a late ad. Editors are going to be pissed at me. But I'm going to throw them on before this thing goes live because I agree with you there. We could ride Notre Dame similar. You got a Pac-12 game.
Yeah.
This game has been, please, Colorado you like versus USC. And I'm struggling with this game, but I like the pick. So what's the reasoning behind it?
Okay, so funny thing is I literally said probably an episode or two ago, I was like, I don't bet on Pac-12 games because I just stay away from them because they're so dangerous. This was stupid. And it was just me going against my better judgment again. But I really do like Colorado versus USC. I think USC still has a lot of things to figure out, and I also
clearly,
yeah, right. I also think that this Colorado team did keep up with Texas A&M, despite the fact that they did lose their quarterback that game, and it just was sort of a interesting. They were at home and all of those things, or at a neutral site that was basically a home site for Colorado. But I don't know. I think this is just a random Pac-12 game that no one's. People are going to be paying attention to USC, but I thought that 7.5 is a lot. So yeah, I took Colorado plus it. That I just feel like that is really big of a spread for this specific game.
USC got Oregon State is another adopt-a team. I'm going to have a very big stable.
I'm okay with that. That's going to be a mutual one for us.
Okay, Oregon State is one of my favorites. So I like this play. I think Colorado's defense is pretty good, and I think USC is a scientific word for this is shooketh. They seem very shooketh on the way things are going. All right, I already explained. I like Stanford versus Oregon. I won't get too deep into it because we talked about it earlier. Plus 8 on the other side of a touchdown. They were competitive with UCLA. It's a really weird spot for Oregon. And I think you mentioned it. That Arizona game, I watched it through half an eye open at that point because it had been a day. But I watched it and rewatched it in the morning. They did not look good in that game. Oregon did not look great in that game. I think Stanford can really push this thing. This is a game I will dabble on the money line with Stanford. I think I think this could get very, very close.
Let's get weird in the Pac-12.
Yes. Now, you also have a game on here. We talked about games that we're excited about that our people are sleeping on. Liberty UAB. I am so happy you mentioned this game as a bet. Now, you like the over, right? That
yes,
you're going over 49.5. I love this game. I love Willis. I know they lost to Syracuse, but still is a really good team. And UAB is awesome. I think it's a good bet.
I think there's going to be a lot of points. They both can score. Do too. So, I think that's a safe bet. And I'm also, I'm big on overs. So if I see something that looks enticing, I'm going to take it. Even if it's a hunch, I'm like, all right, I'm going for it.
I will give one that we haven't talked about. I like Wisconsin -2.5 versus Michigan.
Can we talk about how funny that Michigan is not favored in this game and they are the ranked team here? It's because Wisconsin has played.
That's exactly it.
But it's just very comical to me that that's the situation we're in with.
That's why I'm betting it in part, but also Michigan had 275 yards of offense against Rutgers last week. Wisconsin's been kind of a mess. I mean, that's
They
the
are a
part of
mess.
this that we need them to figure things out. I still question how Michigan can throw the ball. I was at this game a couple years ago in Madison, and it was not good for Jim Harbaugh. The line has had a lot of movement. I just like Wisconsin in the spot. I think they've had a tough schedule. It's been a really weird year so far.
Yeah.
I thought I read that they're like 9-9 in their last 18 games, which for Wisconsin is like unheard of.
Yeah.
I think they get right for at least a weekend. And by the way, Jim Harbaugh, these are the games that he has not been able to win.
Yeah.
Part of me actually wants him to win this game. I mean that sincerely. Like, I would love to see him actually win a game that he shouldn't.
Yep. I think this would be a huge step in the right direction for that program in general, especially because, like, off-season stuff, taking a pay cut, all of those things, and having those discussions around the program and recruiting. I feel like this would be a solid win, but yeah, I sort of think that this game comes down to a field goal. Like, I think we get a field goal at the very end, and it's either going to be hit or missed. And I think
it's going to be a grotesque football game.
I would guess that Jim Harbaugh should have gone for it for the win and takes a field goal, and they miss the field goal, if I had to guess.
The total in this game is 43.5. That is, is there any total on the board lower than that?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
I mean, that's got to be close if it's not it. This is going to be a horrific football game. And it's like the opposite of Ole Miss, Alabama. If you're into that sort of thing, like the opposite of that sort of thing.
I actually really love the like gritty, gross Big Ten games where it's like 9 points.
Paige, this is for you. Yeah, this is gonna be bad. And then you have Tulane, which is I can't go full on adopt a team because I feel like I'm getting a little aggressive with the adopt a team.
I feel like you have a lot.
But I like this pit.
I just would like to take a moment and say someone tried to call me out for rooting for or for like supporting Arkansas, and I was like, no, I just made that pick, but also like. It was weird because I tweeted about Arizona and they're like, another team? I thought you were on the Arkansas thing. I'm like, I literally went to the University of Arizona. So I get to adopt whoever I want. Also, it was just a pick and also, like, it's fun, all right? That's how we make fun of
this is the problem. You get into gambling, right? And people start to say really weird shit to you about losing games.
They're like, what? I'm like, I didn't ask. But yes, I did take Tulane -2 versus East Carolina. So...
Yeah, East Carolina's giving me problems this year. I like that pick. And my last one, this is another funky game. Texas, TCU, over 65.5. TCU is only a 5-point 5-point home dog in this game. So Texas, only 5 points. They've looked great since the quarterback change was made, albeit against teams they should look great against. I'm going to lean TCU as well in this spot, but I think both these defenses have not been good. Texas's offense under Thompson has been great. We saw TCU get sent to SMU. They scored up in the 70s last week. I mentioned it in locks. I think this is a game that could rival Alabama Ole Miss in terms of points. I think this is one of those games. Could be a really, really fun game on the card.
So you're taking the over at 65.5.
And I you know what? Are you going to
take the
locks,
over for Alabama?
No, I can't.
I might.
I don't know if I'll have a single wager in that game. Like, I might take the over. Is tough. I've been betting more overs. And that's not necessarily a bad bet. When you get 80, though, you think about it, you got to average, 20 points a quarter. And, I guess for these teams, maybe that's not that hard. I did this. I bet the over in App State Marshall last week, and it was such a grind. I needed to remove
what a
myself
grind of a game in general, by the way.
Yes. So it's just I'll probably stay away, but I say that, and then I'll get excited. It'll be and then I'll message you on Saturday, like, just a reminder that's still there. Damn it! I'll see what that over does, though. I would like it to come down. If it could come down to like 77.5, I don't think it is, though. I think it's probably going to get parked right around 79.5, 80 points, and that is crazy to me. But maybe not wrong. Wild. But it is going to be a fun weekend. I know. I'm so excited. Reminder, guys, please subscribe. Yes. Share, like, review. Tell your friends. Yeah, review. Tell your friends. Spam your family members with this. Tell us if you have a favorite alcohol that you would like us to try. That's really what we're getting at here. Yes. That too, right? I mean, now we're in the wheelhouse of beers. Beers, seltzers, bourbons, tequilas. I'll take it all. aren't you still working on is it the Bud Light
Yes, I
seltzer
can't find them. They're
flannel
still
pack?
not here. I've looked every time. I don't know why, because I actually talked to my local BevMo guy and was like, what's the deal? And he was like, well, we still have the, like, summer version of their, like, variety packs, their specialty packs or whatever. So once we run out of those, then they send us the other one. I'm like, but it's almost October. I need to try the flannel one. So if someone can figure out a way to get me that would be awesome. I've tried though, but the fact that I talked to my local BevMo guy is like kind of sad.
Pumpkin fall beers. Thoughts? You're not much of a beer. Well, you're.
Trader Joe's has a pumpkin beer, and I will. If it's from Trader Joe's, I will try it. So we got to get
more
you
of
some
a
of this.
holiday.
Do you have
like,
Trader Joe's where you are? That might be a really.
Oh
weird...
yes,
okay.
yes. It's not like I'm not in Antarctica. Like there
I'm
are.
just checking.
I guess it's a fair question. Like there are some differences, but yes. No, I am lukewarm on fall beers. It's actually a good time for kind of the beefier IPAs, but holiday beers, which we'll get into, there's some spectacular ones. I am excited for that. I can do fall beers and holiday beers and all the other beers. So yes, if you have recommendations, if you have connections that just want to send us beers or seltzers, preferably of the flannel variety.
If you work for Bud Light, please contact me.
Yes, we will be desperate. We'll beg.
We'll beg.
Doesn't
We'll
matter.
totally beg.
Whatever it takes.
Apologies for being mad online today, but also not sorry, because I feel like it made for great content today. So maybe we'll be a little bit happier next week after the chaos of it all, and we have a better picture of what playoff stuff will look like. Very exciting week.
Godspeed. Enjoy the games.